presentation, my friend.
All right, what's up, everybody? It's your man, Danell Taylor, aka Small Guy Promotions, coming to you live with another episode of What's Up Omaha. Today, our featured guest, Shawn Riddle, with Priority Foster Care of Nebraska, and then we have a friend and foster parent, Amanda Stevenson. For whatever reason, I can't tag you from my business page, so I have to do it like on the website or something. Yeah, but yeah, today this will be like the most important of all the videos that we've done so far. This will be the most important one, covering a very, serious topic: foster care, the foster system, how things work. So we'll have it from the foster family side and being a foster parent, as well as being with the organization and the things that go into that. So, Shawn Riddle, how long have you been doing, priority foster care? How did that come about?
Sure. So I've been in foster care for about 15 years now. Long story short, when I graduated college, I was you knew me back in the day. I was kind of looking for something. I was looking for something that I felt that I was passionate about, and at that time, I was really passionate about children. A couple of people had directed me to look into some different things, and so I did that, and ultimately ended up in foster care. And I've been doing that, like I said, for about 15 years now.
Okay. Cool.
A couple of years ago, I just really felt a call to kind of step out and try to do our own thing.
Okay.
And so kind of under some careful consideration and some prayer, I really thought, okay, let's do that. And so that happened about 4 years ago. It takes a long time to get licensed. It's not an overnight process. Yeah, so, but we've actually been up and running officially for just a little over 2 years now. And so we're doing our best to serve those children here in the state of Nebraska.
And I think that's really cool. Anything with like giving back to children is always, a big thing that I'm about in community. So I love doing these What's Up Omaha interviews and trying to raise awareness about what organizations are doing where people may not necessarily know. And sometimes, it's hard to get that information out when people, or even if you do get it out, people aren't like really sure if they can trust it, or maybe they're just not sure about it because they're not familiar with the organization. So a goal of mine is just to try to get people more familiar with these groups and businesses and artists or whoever it is that we're interviewing, just because there's so many people doing great things out in our Omaha metro area. I think there's a lot of good people, and if you only watch some of the social media or some of the news, you see all that negative press that places and people get. So my goal is to try to, counteract that, or offset it, and show the positive side of things and how great people really can be. So that's great what you were doing.
Thank you.
Let's talk to you a little bit. So you are a foster family. You've had a lot of experience as a foster family over the last few years. How did you get into being a foster parent?
I think that we just wanted to make a positive difference in the lives, not of only children, but families. And I think that a lot of times when people think of foster care, they think of the children, but foster care involves not just the children, but they involve their families. And so I think we wanted to really impact families more than anything else.
Yeah. And how long have you been a
So
foster?
we've been foster parents for a little over 2 years.
And so, like, what was the turning point where you actually made the decision? Because there's a lot of different routes that you probably could have gone. I want to help children.
Yeah.
Do I want to volunteer? Like, so that's kind of where I am kind of at with my wife. She wants to adopt. She's always said for a long time that she wants to adopt. And I'm like, ooh, that's a big responsibility. Like, that's like someone else's kid. And we talked about this on Monday when we met. It's just... Number one, I don't want to drop the ball. It's one thing when they're my kids, and like yes, I'm responsible for them. But bringing another kid, like a whole separate kid, away from the family, that's a lot of pressure. So I imagine that you deal with.
Yeah, I mean, our daughter is adopted, and we weren't really interested in doing adoption again. Not for any specific reason. We just didn't feel like that's what we were supposed to do. And so we thought that, being a foster parent we would be able to help, especially with like reunification, I think a lot of people think that, I'll like adopt through foster care, and I think that people need to know that that doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
And you have to be, you have to be okay with reunification. So,
and that's just the child going back to the family, correct?
Yep, being reunified with her family. Yep.
She's using big words, so I wanted to make sure that we were on the same page.
Yeah, the goal is all like when a child goes into foster care, the goal in the beginning is always going to be reunification. And that can change over time, but you have to support that goal. And so with our daughter, we adopted her through a private adoption, not even through an agency. It was one of those like crazy stories. But we have a really close relationship with her birth family, and very open adoption situation. She's gone and spent the night there, and we have a really open relationship with her, and so I think that put us in a unique position as foster parents. To not see parents as, it's like, I think that a lot of people paint the picture as like parents are evil, and that's not true. A lot of them, they just may not have the resources or the education that they need, and so they just, we see it as we're just caring for children, but along with caring for the children, we're also trying to help their parents and give them resources. And while like our main role as foster parents is to care for the children, but we also try to have a really good relationship. We've had really great relationships with all of their parents that we have had in our home.
Cool.
So.
And how many children have you had?
So we have had 5 total. Yeah,
Over
and then
2
we
years.
also did something called Safe Families before we did foster care, which is sort of a program like. They try to intervene with families that need help before it gets to a situation where their children would be in, So it's kind of preventative in a way, and so we also had 2 children that we cared for through Safe Families before we did foster care.
Okay.
So
Shawn, like, how does the process go? So say I'm a parent, or I'm an individual who's interested in like wanting to find a way to give back, and maybe I decide to foster. What steps should I take? And is there anything that I should do before I even contact a foster agency to begin that process?
First of all, Amanda, what an amazing response you had to that. And she's so accurate to say that not only is it for the children, it's for the family, and that's something that we push so big, and we can talk about that later, but just realizing that the impact is greater than just the child in your home. Saying that, that's what you have to kind of have the understanding, that you're going to have a child that's going to come in your home. You've got to realize this before you really make that next step, that you're going to have a child come in your home that will reunify. Yeah. I think the state of Nebraska is doing a great job at really pushing toward reunification, if appropriate. A lot of people reach out to us and say, are you an adoption agency? We're not. There are times where the foster care moves to adoption, and we support that, but we always want the child to go back to the home. The child wants to go back to the home.
And I think that's one thing that like some people have mentioned to me is like, well, why would they want to go back? Well, you have to understand that like, the child that we have in our home right now, she's 10 years old, and for 10 years, or for almost, for most of that time, she has lived in another home with her family. And while that home might, everybody has their own issues,
right.
but like that's her home.
That's exactly
right.
right.
And that is, so who is anyone to say that like they wouldn't want to reunite? Yeah. And I really believe that it is in the best interest if it is safe,
right,
for children to be reunified. And
Absolutely.
So there are some people that may not think that way.
You're amazing. That is exactly right. It absolutely is. Mm-hmm. I mean, the thing is you may do one thing one way, you may do one thing, and it's complete opposite. Right. But our children are still healthy and being cared for, and we love our children. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but our children, that's all that they know. They're clay waiting to be molded, and they know what we teach them. Right. And people think, I guess I've been doing this 15 years, and I'm still not sure where people get the idea that children in foster care are bad and their parents are horrible. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and I was thinking about this when she was talking too. I think it's just number one, like we talked about on Monday, I don't personally know any families that have fostered aside from Amanda. Before I met her, I didn't know anyone. TV. Movies. Like I was just sitting here thinking about, I don't know if either of you guys watch it, but This Is Us.
I don't. Everybody tells me that I should, and I can't. I think that I'm scared. Like as an adoptive and a foster parent, like I think I'm too scared to watch it.
It's a very good show. But I mean, like in that part of the storyline is, Randall, who was adopted, black kid adopted by a white family. When he gets older, he wants to, give back to a child as well. So he steps in and he pretty much fosters this little girl, and they show some of the backstory of her going through different houses and different homes. And that type of storyline, I think that if that's all you have to go off of, I mean, a lot of times you get a wrong impression because it's not reality.
So it's interesting because I think that when you say like people think that they're bad kids, and I think that I'm like totally like that word. There's miseducation, number one, in that they're not bad. They have endured significant trauma.
That's right.
And a lot of people do not see, or even, they don't even really want to see or know. Like, trauma manifests itself in behaviors and different things. And like, our first placement was a really, really difficult placement. We had a child that was very physically aggressive in our home. And we had this placement for over a year. And I had never felt so isolated in my life because people did not want, like they didn't invite us to things. They didn't, because they knew this child that we had, he was labeled as the bad kid. Well, he wasn't bad. He was in survival mode his entire life. He was 6 when he came to us, and for his entire life, he was in survival mode. He had been severely neglected, and so people didn't understand that part. They just see, oh, well, he just has like these horrible behaviors. Well, you don't know why, and that's why I think that
taught.
So, and that's why I really try to think, and not just with foster children, but with like anybody, I always think like there's so much that we don't know to people's stories.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Like we have to understand that, and there are so many people that might look at me and they don't know my story. And so
you're right. It's an old adage, can't judge a book by its cover type thing. And the survival mode. I mean, you're just nailing it there. You get children. I mean, just think if you haven't been fed and haven't showered and haven't been in a clean environment, and the environment you're in is chaotic, and you're abused, how are you going to behave?
Well, so that reminds me of a story. Can I share something really quick? So this placement we had, this first placement, and the children had not been fed on a regular basis, and so they had to really fight for getting food. And I took them to the grocery store, and I didn't know until like we were on our way home, and they had taken some things from the store because they did not trust me enough that I was going to feed them because they had never been fed like consistently on a regular basis.
Wow.
And so that was just something that like we had to learn, and that was like within the first few days that they were in our home, and it was and eventually like we learned like there were food hoarding. That's like a thing that I'm sure you're very familiar with. Hoarding food in their rooms was another thing that was really that was like another thing that we had to deal with.
What an eye opener for sure.
Well, see, and I think like people don't see that stuff enough, but they should. We kind of live in our own bubbles, and we only know what we know, and we don't want to step outside of that box. And then I also feel like if people do see that type of thing more, like for me, I'm always talking about being grateful and thankful for everything that I have. So when you don't grow up like that and you see a child that is going through that, like that's a great lesson for my daughters to see. Like we volunteered down at the Open Door Mission because I wanted my oldest to know that, hey, listen, we live pretty well. We need to be thankful for everything we have. We can go out to the store and buy food whenever we want, or go to a movie or whatever. Some of these people at the shelter, or all these people at the shelter, can't do that.
Yeah.
Like it's not all about us. It's about other people and seeing how we can like do something for someone else and give back. And I feel like when you do that, like I don't know how good of a feeling you get when you know that you're making like that deep of an impact to a child when you foster. Because I know like if I volunteer or something, how good I feel because I'm doing something. I mean, I made a blog last year called The Selfish Giver because I volunteer and things that, but I do it for the community, but I know that I'm going to feel good when I do it.
You know, I think one of the most awkward parts of being a foster parent are the people that are like, oh, that's just like so great that you do that, and I never know what to say because I don't know that I get. I mean,
because you don't do it for that reason. You do it.
Yeah, it's right. It's I don't. I guess I think like. I mean, I know that I don't know. It's hard to like understand. It's like, well, like if somebody's like. If there's a need, I just feel like I need to do it. I don't know.
And I understand that. And you are the type of people that Priority Foster Care is looking for. So in kind of getting back to your question, but in doing this for a long time, I have seen that I've seen different individuals come in, and everybody has a desire to help children. What we say is come be a part of the training. So one, you can hear those wonderful stories that you have, and what amazing stories. But two, to see if it's right for you, because there's so much of an investment in that. But what we need is for you to be able to invest yourself into this child. If that's not something that you can't do, that's not a bad thing. Then foster care just isn't it. Right. But we need somebody like that who can't even find the words to say, like, duh. You just want to kind of say, like, you don't want to sound uneducated, but duh. Like, of course I would take a child into my home. If I had the opportunity to do that, of course I would allow a child to come stay with me.
And I tell people, too, like, there are so many things that they can get involved in with foster care. Like I do not believe that everybody should be a foster parent. That's not something for everyone, but everybody can do something. And I have a laundry list of things that people can do that they don't even realize that they could do. So I mean,
and we can talk about some of that stuff too, because I know that like we talked about before, you're more active on Twitter with the conversation about the foster life and like things that can be done to help the foster parent. Why don't we just say like backpacks or we were talking recently about something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was.
So there are lots of things, and I'll like put my profile in the Facebook Live in the comments so that if people want to contact me, they can. Or you can find me on Twitter at Amanda Stevenson without the vowels. Just asking. I'll put my Twitter profile in the comments too.
There you go.
But find me Amanda Stevenson. But multiple things. I think number one, if you know a foster family, reach out to them. And there are so many things that you can do to help them. Number one, respite is a huge, huge thing. And all you have to do really is have a background check if you know your family. Or even if it's just a few hours for like my husband and I getting out of the house.
What is respite?
I was going to say.
What is respite?
Yes, my cousin does that. So I'm familiar with it. But if she didn't,
that's a good. So respite is essentially, giving the foster parents a break and caring for that child for a short amount of time. And sometimes that's just a couple of hours, and sometimes it might be a day or 2 days or whatever. Or if they have a trip and they're not able to take the foster child with them for lots of different reasons, things like that. So that's one way to get involved. You do have to have a background check for that. A couple other things, like number one, providing meals for foster families is a big one. There are lots of appointments, home visits, court dates, like lots of things that are constantly on the calendar. And juggling all those can be really hard, so even like providing meals can be a really
meals
good
that
thing.
can be frozen, is that a
good frozen meals are great. Like I would love that. The second thing, it would be like, this might sound sort of ridiculous, but I had somebody one time that came over to my house and just like helped with house cleaning because we had
I remember you
and like that is a huge need. Sometimes, just you think about like all the stuff that you have in your house. Well, now you have like a child and
Yeah,
like
add
all
to
of their
that, yeah.
belonging, and so things can get a little complicated, and depending what that child's needs are. So like when my friends did that, the children that we had in our home, one of them had like significantly high needs, and so I just felt like I was overwhelmed all the time, and I couldn't find the time to clean my house or do my laundry. Another thing would be, so suitcases are a huge thing. We recently had our foster daughter move back in, and her belongings came, she didn't have, like, we had sent her with suitcases when she left, but they didn't come back with her, and instead her belongings were in trash, like big, huge plastic bags, and I know that agencies try not to do that, but there are just not enough, like the system is overlooked, there's so many things, and so she had, like, and in these bags, like, she had clean clothes and dirty clothes mixed in, and there was like trash, and there was like everything was mixed in all together. Like, there was no organization at all. Suitcases are huge. And when I talk about suitcases, I think I get a little bit on my soapbox a little bit. You probably will understand this, but a lot of times when people want to donate things to foster children, they will donate their leftovers, or they will donate things that they don't need anymore, they don't use, like they're already used. And foster children deserve more than that. Like, they deserve to have dignity and respect, and I think that they will, like, if you wouldn't use it yourself, don't give it to a foster child. We had a couple people like give suitcases that were not in great condition, and I was like, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna throw these away, because like, don't give a suitcase that's like all ripped out.
It's about to fall apart. What's the point?
Why would it?
Just sew it together.
Like, that's not. I don't think that's no better than a plastic trash bag, in my opinion. Like, they deserve better than that. So if you're going to give, if you want to donate clothes, or like, make sure that they're in good condition and that they are usable, because that, and I have had lots of people that have, in the past few months, that have, I think we collected maybe 10 suitcases, and I just gave them to Promise Ship, and was able to, give those to different foster children, and obviously our own foster child. But that's a big one, suitcases. Even helping with transportation sometimes can be hard, getting to and from appointments. And it obviously depends, like, if you know a foster family, because you're not just like a random person. It's like, hey, you need help with transportation, But I think there are a lot of things that people can do. Backpacks, back to school is a big one. If you cut hair, giving haircuts is a big one. I mean, obviously you have to get permission for that,
right?
And making sure that it's okay for make sure it's okay with their parents, their not their foster parents, but biological parents. But that's another one that I've seen.
Is that something that you guys struggle with sometimes? Because I might know somebody.
Not really. I mean, like, I've just seen this. That's something that I saw. Like, a salon was doing something for, like, haircuts for foster kids or something, which I was like, that's a great idea. Like, you want to.
I know someone very close to me. My wife. Mitzi at Ambition Salon.
There you go.
Mitzi, if you see this,
there you go.
I know they did some after the hurricanes and stuff in Haiti, or earthquakes or whatever it was. They did haircuts and took donations, and all the proceeds went to Haiti. At least that's what it's supposed to go to. As far as we know. But so I wanted to ask you. So when you have a foster parent who's in need of things like that, where does the agency stand on that? Is there something that you can do, or strings that you can pull to assist with those?
I mean, as she's saying that I think that's an interesting perspective, and I see those things. But as you say those things, I'm surprised, because I've seen that myself, so I guess I'm not surprised. But that's where I think kind of separates priority foster care. Now, I think most foster care agencies out there are doing a really good job. Everyone's attempting to do their best. But I think that's what singles us out as kind of being different, is we're aware of those things, and we address those things immediately. I mean, gosh, I could talk for an hour on the importance of not coming in trash bags.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and like I said, like my husband and I were talking, and sometimes like this happened. This was something that happened super fast, and and actually, like her belongings were in like multiple places.
Yeah.
You know, and so sometimes it happens, but
it does.
But it shouldn't.
It should not. And right. And I think
know?
that's what we do. I think we're fortunate in the experience that we have to be able to problem solve all those things before they come up. So if we were to see, I guess for that specific instance, a child moving from one of our homes at least, we would plan on that. Whether that's the foster parent able to gather that or the agency providing for that. Yeah. And then the transportation stuff. We as an agency, I mean, we meet regularly, and I'm sure you did as well, but we meet regularly with our foster parents to discuss all of that, you know, and then, and so even to step back through our training, we build those relationships so that they feel comfortable and say, Shawn, man, I'm stressed out because I can't clean my house.
Right.
We can probably solve all of that, you know. Each situation has its own answer. Yeah. But that's why I honestly feel like we're unique and different because we're aware of that and we build that relationship so that we can address all those things. So we don't have foster parents feeling overwhelmed saying, I can't do this, because we don't want to lose people like Amanda. Not that we've lost you, but we don't want to lose wonderful people like Amanda who are saying, duh, I would do this. Of course I would take a child in my home. If I can do that, I want a child in my home. We want those people to stay around. So it is the purpose of all agencies, not only Priority Foster Care, to problem solve that regularly so that those challenges don't come up and ultimately affect the relationship. And it hasn't with you, but as an agency, as an agency, that is our number one goal, to make everything as smooth as possible. Right. Because the obstacles are already there with the children and what they have experienced and how they're going to express that. Right. The last thing we want is someone to feel overwhelmed with things like you said, which I have seen time and time again. So, you know, I mean, I think, again, I'd be, you know, remiss to not acknowledge that what we do is I really think that we focus hard on those things.
Yeah. And what is that, like, I know that I've had experience with like big brothers, big sisters, kids can, and things like that. So I know that it's like kind of an onboarding thing, you know, to get people familiar and to know guidelines and things like that. What is the training like with your organization that people go through before they get to that step of actually being a foster?
So I actually just had someone ask me what a qualification. So I'll just kind of briefly touch on them, but they get more in depth as you go through the training. But you must be 21 years of age. Single parents can have 4 children underneath them to include biological children. Okay. Couples and married couples can have 2 or 6 children. Did I say 4? 4 for single, 6 for couples to include their biological children. So if they have 5 biological children, they can only be licensed for 1 more. Then their home has to meet specific qualifications. Of course, cleanliness, safe, specific square feet. Then we do background checks. We want to make sure you're not crazy. Right. We want to make sure that you've not done anything that we don't know about. We will Google you. Right. We'll look on your social media. So don't look crazy on your social media. If you're wanting to be a foster parent, represent kind of what you think a foster parent would be. And then you go through the training. It's a 3-month training. Some people want to know why the training is so long. And the thing that we do on the first day is take out a picture of your child. So then you got to picture your child and say, okay, now you've got to place that child with somebody. Yeah. That's right. What do you need to know before you place that child with somebody? A whole bunch. A whole bunch. So, you know, and also during this training, it's a mutual process. As much as you want to be a foster parent, we want to make sure we're making the right decision as well. You may have a desire to help children, but foster care may not be it. Right. There are many options, and we want you to come in, and we will work together. We've had people come in the first training and say, this is not me. We've had people come in and do the entire training and still say, this is not me. One, you don't know until you try. Yep. And it's and that's okay. That's what it's there for. It is. Right. Because we can only do so many of these. You have to kind of really come in and get the stories like you shared and get the material to see, is this for me or not, you know? And then we just work on preparing the foster parent as much as possible. Through all the training, you're only as prepared as the story can give you, right? And I believe in our trainings, we like to keep our training small. I've been through part of trainings where you have 20 families. And for us, I don't care for those. I think that those can be effective. But I like the smaller, more intimate ones so people feel more comfortable to interact and discuss, and we can have someone share stories like that. Right. You're comfortable to do so, but not everybody is. And we go through that training process. And in that training process, there's also more documentation you have to complete. Yep. We do what is our biggest thing, what seems to be the hardest thing over background checks and everything, is a home study. Yep. A home study is a small biography on you.
Yeah.
Because what we're doing is we're saying, okay, state, we want to license this couple as foster parents, and the state says why. So we kind of have to explain who they are, and that's the hardest process. Not necessarily because they don't want to divulge information. That's sometimes a hiccup, but it's just it's a long document, and it takes a while. But if you make it through all that, then you're a licensed foster parent. But the training doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
It's not only the experience, but it's ongoing training that you have to get. You have to gather.
24 hours. Well, it's 12 hours a year technically. Although I mean, it's not hard to do that as a foster parent.
Yeah.
There's so many opportunities to get training hours.
Yes, there is.
But I would say even like the training in general. I lost my train of thought what I was going to say with the training, but
you said it's easy to do 12 hours a year.
It is, and I think that like the PS MAP. It's called the PS MAP training. Which is like every agency.
Yeah, everybody has to do that.
It's like state mandated. It's actually like multiple states. It's not just Nebraska. But they do such a good job of really putting you in like kind of situations and like what would you do here and what would you do here and I mean it's intense. A lot of people are afraid of home study. I think. I mean we had already been through an adoption, so I think it wasn't. We had already been through the home study process, so I don't think we were as freaked out. Yeah. Although I do remember being really freaked out when we went through our adoption about the home study. I was scrubbing like parts of my house, and it was like they are not gonna care that this closet is not vacuumed.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing.
I don't know. Like
I think that they feel they're being judged.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, we all have our own stories, and we're all. But you know what though? And this is what I say: those unique experiences that you experienced allow you to be an amazing foster parent.
Right.
I've got one foster parent. She was extremely nervous about doing that because you do have to go a little in depth on kind of your way, the way you've been disciplined and how you will discipline. What's your perspective on discipline, physical discipline? How do people know when you're upset? What does that look like? Type thing. And this young lady was really nervous to do that. And she called me and said, "Shawn, I'm afraid to say the things that I've experienced." And I said, "Don't." Because we're not judging you.
Right.
But I'm telling you, one, you have to. But two, we can use it to our strength. And because she had some of the experiences she had growing up, it made her amazing at caring for other children, specifically young girls who were very abused.
Yeah.
She understood it. And she got it, and things didn't scare her away.
Yeah.
So I would call her and say, "Hey, I've got this young girl with these obstacles and these challenges. What do you think?" And somebody said, "No." She was like, "Absolutely."
Yeah.
And she just did amazing. It didn't scare her, it didn't spook her. So you can use those to do some amazing things. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. You know me that I'm a change. I'm growing up, but we've had our obstacles going. And really, that my past has allowed me to do this and do it well.
Well, a lot of times people don't like see that connection, and I talk about this all the time too. Like you have to go through something sometimes to like realize your full potential.
That's right.
Like it's not all just gonna be easy.
And how can you understand it if you don't have any understanding of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying go out there and rob a bank so you know not to rob a bank.
Right, yeah.
But you have the exposure to some of that, and it can really it can provide you a strength that I don't have.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's why we work as a team. So you can come to the table with these unfortunate experiences, but the good Lord has allowed you to use those to be better, to help somebody in need.
Yep.
And that's what's amazing to us. And so that's what we're really looking for. So don't shy from that.
Yep.
We're not perfect. We realize that. And nobody is. And that's not what we're looking for.
And I think that's probably something that's really good to get across to people who don't know, because like you said, she called and said, "Hey, I'm kind of worried about this." There might be a lot of people that feel that same way, and that might prevent them from even taking that first step through the process. So I think that's really good to know.
Yeah, and the other thing on that, and we can move on, but I think that people create stories in their head. Even I do the same thing about something that makes me feel uncomfortable or I'm unsure of. You create stories because you don't know. But that's why I encourage people to call us. Let's talk about this. Let's discuss this. You don't do foster care.
Yeah.
I don't do what you do. So you can't tell me to do foster care. And I can't tell you to do what you do. And even you as well, So let's discuss this. Let's see how we can make this work. It doesn't always work.
Right.
Like I said, there are times I've had people go through the entire training and say, I'm sorry, but I just don't feel like this is for you. That's not comfortable,
Yeah.
but it's for the sake of the children.
Yep.
But we don't know until we sit down and have those conversations.
Yeah.
Until we get to know one another. And you know, some people will call me and say, hey, I've had this, and this, and what do you think? And I'll have to say, I'm sorry, but that's not going to work. Or don't worry about it. Oh, really? Yes, because here's why, and kind of what I just shared. So we're not looking for these particular individuals. We want people of all experiences to come and allow children to come live in their home. And we have a bunch of mission statements, but our mission statement, kind of unedited one, is children leave our homes better than they came in. And absolutely, and then our greatest thing is to, and I don't know how we're going to do this yet, but we're working hard on being able to affect the families, because like you said, we want to be able to touch families and be some type of role model for this family, so that, you know, you've got the aunties and uncles that aren't really your auntie and uncle, your niece and nephew that aren't really. That's what we want to be.
Right.
That's what we want our foster parents to be to these children and their families, so that they can do what she said was respite, which is pretty much a stay in the night. And my wife and I are going out tonight. We're going to ask our Nana and Papa, hey, can the girls come over? It's the same thing. And that's why I also think it's beneficial to have friends of yours be able to provide the respite, because there are people that are in their lives as well. Because like you said, it'd be a little weird if I just called you and said, hey, can you watch my kids tonight? Where if I would call my brother and say, hey, can you watch my kids? They'd be more comfortable, you know. But I mean, and it's just, we have to follow a set of guidelines. We have to follow a set of guidelines. We have to be professional. But you know, we want to be just an open family of love. And we want to be ourselves. And if we can do that, we can help these children. We can assist these children as they grow and really invest ourselves in the children. Let me say this one other thing. The type of foster parents we're looking for, I have one foster parent I'm working with now, because it's an ongoing process, and I'm sure you know much more now than you did even 2 years ago when you came out of the training. It's an ongoing process being supported by the agency. And with this young lady, she's an amazing foster parent. She's on the surface, she's providing everything this child needs. Everything this child needs. But what she struggles with is the investment into the child. And so I'm working with her on that, because I believe that it's not enough to feed them, clothe them, even with the good stuff, clothe them, to keep them involved in activities, participating in school, go meet with the teachers. That's not enough. You have to invest into this child. What does that look like? Sit down and watch a movie with them.
You know, my favorite activity to do with my foster daughter is I'm training for a marathon, and she loves riding her bike.
Oh, wow.
And so she rides her bike while I run. And it is like, and she loves it. Plus, like, she has so much energy. Like, she has so much energy, and I'm like, every evening, I'm like, all right, I gotta get you on your face so that you can go to bed when it's time to go to bed.
And they'll never forget that. They will never, ever forget that. And I've got so many stories for that. They'll never forget those small moments. Just think about when you're a kid, those unique, and I know that you have great memories of your parents as well, and of your father. And just think about those unique memories that you experienced of that small things of just riding in the front seat with them, and you went to an auto mechanic store, and on your way you grabbed a piece of ice cream. There's a donut shop down on 13th Street that I remember my dad took me one time, and I for so bad wanted to go there, and I was able to take my kids there to show them like this, and it was nothing significant. My dad took me there, and I wanted to take them there, and it's the same idea.
And you never know. And you never know. That's why I tell people, like, just, it doesn't matter when people think in terms of giving back. Like, you might see that, like, this millionaire or this actor or actress, like, donated $1 million to some cause or something like that. The fact that you don't have $1 million doesn't mean that you can't make a difference.
Oh, no doubt.
Like, you never know what you can do that may be so small to you, but may mean the world to someone else. It can be something just like, maybe somebody had a bad day and you open the door for them, or you ask them, how is your day, or what's wrong? You never know.
100%.
So it's all those small things that you're talking about.
Well, and to piggyback off that, those things are necessary, but they're surface level. But they're necessary. I mean, they have to be. Just like you said, the backpacks and all those have to be. But what it really takes is someone to build, like I just said, build and invest really of themselves into that child. That's what makes the impact. I mean, so many times I've interacted with children, and just getting to know them and showing them that you care, it just brings them around. I had one child, he was an amazing kid, but boy, he drove me crazy at times. And he could tell that I was frustrated when he came in the room one day, and I said, I almost said today, but go over there and be with your friends. And he said, can I sit by you? You called me Mr. Shawn, and I said, sit by me? I said, you've been driving me crazy. He said, no. And he said, Mr. Shawn, he said, the thing is I've got a lot going on at home. He said, I look at you like my third parent. He said, and I just know that you care.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you do? Because you've been driving me crazy. I've been yelling at you. I yell at you all the time, like, man, knock it out. But it's that involvement, because I also have had conversations of what's your interest? What's been going on?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, man, you think that girl's cute?
Yeah.
Man, what are those? Type of thing. Just that involvement, that interest in the children is what we really need, and is what priority foster care really, really needs.
Yeah, and what you just said, like, I literally just today, I retweeted it because I was like, really, the president is talking about this, but whatever his name, Don Lemon or whatever on CNN, he interviewed LeBron James, and LeBron James is opening like a school, and he said, children just want to know that someone cares. Like, that's what I want every child that walks through my school to know. I think he was doing just like 1 or 2 grades now, but he said in 2022 he wants to have from 1st to 8th grade. And he said that that is his whole goal, is to make sure that every kid that walks through those doors knows that we care. Like, there's someone that cares. He said, that's all that kids want. They want to know that someone cares. So it's,
It is. So, you don't have to. I mean, so to be a foster parent, on top of those qualifications, what qualifies you as a foster parent is just being able to do that. So you may not be able to buy the latest brand new things, but as long as they're, you are buying them items to take care of those items, but you're really investing yourself in them, your time in them. You're spending enough time to see the things that you've been able to see. Like, are they hurt? Are they, are they happy? What makes them happy? What makes them sad? Being able to see those things, that's what they want. I mean, even look at us. We still want people to tell us they're proud of us. Yeah. We still want people to tell us we're doing a good job and we're adults and we're somewhat established. Yeah. We're still. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. Right. But it's kind of that same idea, and it's children the same. That's all you've got to be able to do. That's all you have to be able to do is just say, I'm going to allow a child to come in my home and tell them that I care about them. Yep. That's all. And as an agency, if you're with a good agency, they'll help you get through a lot of that. Yeah. And you have someone, like you said, she's going to share a tweet on some things. I think that's a great idea to follow, to have some outlets to go to that help you get along. But again, I think what stands us out, we're small but mighty, is that we can really focus in on those. Yeah. The state has came to us a couple times and said, we want you to grow, we want you to grow, we want you to grow. And I said, I know that you do, because the need is significant, man. Right. Yeah. I mean, there's just not enough foster parents. That's not a nice thing. That's the truth. There are not enough. I'm constantly getting contact about kids in need placement. But we have turned away, and this may not be good to say, but we have turned away more than we've accepted. Yeah. And not in a rude, jerkful way, but just saying, I don't believe that this is the appropriate fit for you. Right. Because we're so concerned with really making an impact on these children and the family. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And there's a reason why people say that, because it is. Everybody's going to say quality over quantity, but we live by that. And I think that people are seeing that, and you can experience that yourself if you come to the training, come be a part of kind of what Party Foster Care is doing. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, I'm so glad that we did this. So just so you guys know, like, Shawn had been following the page for a while, and he just reached out and said, hey man, I see what you've been doing with the What's Up Omaha interviews, and this is what I'm doing with Priority Foster Care, and I was wondering if if we could get together and we could be featured on an episode. And I'm like, oh yeah, man. I was like, I actually have been wanting to do something like that. I was like, I know Amanda has been dealing with this. I've seen in a couple of other conversations where foster care has come up, and I was like, man, I think this is something that people need to hear.
Well, and the reason why I did that was not because of your following, but because of your perspective. Yeah, really. I mean, just the positive that you're putting out there, the positive things you're saying. But even your videos that you do just of yourself. Yeah, just the positive, the things you're speaking, the encouragement. I'm like, man, I need to be a part of that. Man, and that's Pride of Foster Care wants to be a part of anything that's positive and moving in the right direction. Again, for not only the children, but for families, because that is our motto. So it may not be foster care, but there's something out there. Yeah. We want to be a part of stuff like that.
And and as he was saying earlier, like about going through things, like all this stems from. I've always been a positive person, but all this stems from my loss of my father. Like, my father died very suddenly, and from that, I call it the light in the dark. My light in the dark is Small Guy Promotions. Was created from the passing of my dad. If my dad did not die, Small Guy Promotions may never have been born. Wow. So there was a period of sorrow and sadness and anger and all those things, the steps of grief that you go through. But I had to make a conscious decision that I couldn't stay in that that area, that feeling that I was in at that time. Like I had to do something productive because I felt like it was just all energy, and all that negative energy, I couldn't hold on to that. So I had to transform it into something else. So I said, this is what I'm going to do. And like my mission now is to try to help people. I used to say make people smile, make people laugh. I don't want to make people do anything. I want to help people smile. I want to help people laugh. And like I want to use that energy to do that and spread that and let people know that we don't have to wake up in the morning. Like there's plenty of people who pass away when they're sleeping. You know, they think that they're going to wake up and do all these things the next day, and that time never comes. So we just need to be grateful, and we need to do the things that we want to do while we're here. And if we do those things that we want to do, it makes us happy because we're living out like us. Like you fostering, it's just natural to you.
Right.
You feel odd because it's just what you do. When somebody says, "Oh, you do such a great job," I can't believe you do. You're like, it's just what I do. Like, that's just me. So that's what I want to help people do. Like I want to help people like execute that passion that they've been feeling like for years or whatever, and been hesitant to like act on. Like I'm like, no man, life is too short, man. You never know when it's gonna end, so you got to put those words into action. So that's what it's all about.
One thing that I thought about was a lot of people say, "Oh, I could never be a foster parent because I could never give the child back to their parent."
Yes.
And this is something I just thought about. I want to address that because I think there's a couple of things when people say that. Number one, you're basically telling me that I'm able to do that.
That's a unique perspective. Yeah.
That's not something that is easy for any of us to do. And the reason being, the whole point of being a foster parent is to have an attachment with this child and show them what healthy attachments and healthy relationships look like.
That's right.
And so if you have that, it is going to be hard no matter what. And so it's going to be hard for everybody. It's going to be hard for the child. It's going to be hard. But like your loss, our loss, is that child's gain in gaining their family back. And so if you see foster parents, don't tell them, "Oh, I could never do that," because I could never give,
I get that all the time.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that.
And they say all the time, "I can't do it because I get too attached." Well,
that's the whole point.
Then perfect.
You're the perfect.
That's exactly what we need.
If that is your mindset, then you are the perfect person to do foster.
Then because you're invested in it, you've obviously invested in yourself. But what I was saying earlier goes to that of because they go home doesn't mean they disappear from your life. I met with this young girl 2 weeks ago, and she just would not connect with this foster parent. Now I know it's a challenge. It wasn't like 2 weeks in. We're like 6 months in, and there's no connection there. And I'm cautious to push. I don't push. I realize the circumstances, but I said, "What is that about?" And after several conversations, she said, "I'm too afraid to get attached, knowing that that soon I'll be leaving here and no longer be my life." And I said, "That's not true. That is not true. That is not the way priority foster care does it." Like I said, the auntie and the uncle, the niece and the nephew, we want to stay in your life. I have so many foster parents who continue to provide the respite or the babysitting or just letting them come over for a summer party. We have foster parents where the kids will go home and they'll say, "Can I still go see Mr. and Miss? Can I go see, Granny, Grandma? Can I still go over to the home?" Yes. The other thing that we often see as well is what we really encourage is co-parenting, is really the working together with the biological parents, not to be like, because like you said, "Oh, you're a horrible parent." And I don't want to get off on that, but gosh, you couldn't be more wrong. And I was going to say I don't want that, but I just don't want anybody who's not willing to be open-minded to the fact that the parents have had a difficult time.
She said open-minded.
And there's also a statistic, and I cannot remember the percentage. I would have to go look it up. But there are a very high number of parents whose children end up in foster care. A high number of those parents were actually in the foster system themselves as children.
Many times.
And so they didn't have a model themselves. And so it is generational. And so if we can even just change if we can help one family so that doesn't happen.
And you can do that by allowing to do what you do as a foster parent, but allowing that child to go home and then remaining in their life so that they can contact you and say, Amanda, so-and-so is driving me crazy, or I'm having these challenges. What do you think? I saw you be successful. What is your perspective on this? So absolutely, we can break that mold. We can stay involved and be that extra family member, that extra support system. That is the goal of priority foster care, and that's what we want. It don't stop when they go home.
Right.
What good is that? We're going to continue to stay involved.
Well, and can I ask you with that, so since people might have, it seems to be a very common misconception of what foster care is and about the biological parents, can you give kind of a scenario or a situation where a child would be placed in the foster care and would go back to the parent? What would be the reason or the catalyst that they would have to leave their parent?
Man, that's a great question. What typically occurs is if a child is no longer safe in the home. That does not mean that the parent is beating on this child and just abusing this child. There are those. And when that happens, rarely do those children go back home. If somebody's doing something so severe in that aspect, the abuse, a lot of times they're detained, and they're just doing things that they can no longer allow the child to be back home. We would never, I apologize for that, guys. But the state of Nebraska would not necessarily put a child back in a home where they're being abused. That does happen, but that's not the larger number. The larger number is just parents who, like you said, who have been in foster care themselves, or who have just found themselves in difficult times and have been overwhelmed by the situation, their scenarios, and they can't do it. So the state steps in and says, why don't we give you some time to work on you, to do the things that you need to do to just get yourself at a better platform, and we'll care for your children until they can come back home.
And so that could include things like maybe someone lost a job, or maybe you had an accident, or disability, or something like. It could be a number of factors.
A gamut of things. And like you said, you were in part of a program where before they even came into the system per se, they would come be with you. We've had children who have been placed with us for 1 or 2 days, 2 weeks, a few months, or a year. It really is it's based on the state. And Promiseship is kind of who we answer to. That's kind of the state here in Nebraska. I think they do a bang up job. Everybody's going to have their own opinions on how things to do, but I think they do a bang up job on really working to stabilize the home and get the family safe, ready to get the kids back. Nobody wants to keep the kids. That's not what we're doing. There's no benefit in doing that. The state of Nebraska really believes in getting the kids back home, but we sometimes need to help the family get together so that we can get them back home. So they come to us and say, Shawn, priority foster care, whoever it may be, can you take in this child while the parent works on that? And that's what we do.
Well, and I think that goes with the sentiment that has been lost over the years, where it takes a village.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
There's no rules that say you only have to have mom and dad. There can be I am about to be 37 and I have a mentor. You never have to lose that relationship.
No, you do not.
And getting a mentor was one of the best things for work that I have done. Just even to have someone to just talk to sometimes.
Just get it off your chest. You'll say it out loud. A lot of times I feel when I say things out loud, when I get them out of my head, say it out loud, it makes more sense. It's the same. It's the same thing of just being there for them. I've never seen it, but I know forever everyone thought the state was there to take your kids. Take your kids. Well, I've been doing this 15 years and I haven't seen that yet.
I'm telling you, it's movies and TV.
Yes, it is.
That's what it is. It's movies and TV.
Yes, it is.
They set up these scenarios and people are like, oh man, I just seen it on TV. I've never known an Amanda who's got a foster kid, so it's got to be that way. So I blame TV. Well, man, I would like to try to get it wrapped up. We were about at an hour almost, I think. So, Shawn, closing notes for you. What is something that you want to make sure that people know, or actually in 2 segments? 1, about foster care in general, and 2, about priority foster care.
So I think it's kind of one and the same for us, that we want to be set aside from everybody else. Again, I think everybody's doing a great job, but where we find ourselves standing out is that we are truly invested, not only as foster parents, but as an agency in these children. And so for us to be able to do that, for us to really buy into this whole it takes a village, and then buy into this whole that we're in it together, not you go foster and I'll touch base with you, but to work as a team. We need individuals who are willing to do that themselves, who want to allow us to be part of the team, who are allowing us to work with them, and to really just be willing to go for practice marathon runs and let the kids bike with you, to be able to go and spend a little extra time eating ice cream with just them, to allow them to come and sit down and watch a movie with them. We want somebody who is saying, you don't have to do all these wonderful things. You have to just invest of yourself into a child. Spend the time and really care. And if you do that, we want you. We can teach you how to be there's a training for that. We can teach you how to be a foster parent. We can teach you what to expect.
Right.
We can fine tune that because that's what our job is. But if you truly have a passion for helping children and families, if you're willing to stay involved in their life forever until they allow us, as long as they allow us, then that's what we want as foster care. That's what we want you to be part of foster care.
Man, I'm so glad we met today. I'm telling you, this is the most important interview that to date for What's Up Omaha. A lot of the interviews have been fun, and we just sit there and raise awareness, but this is like a serious thing where you could really, really change someone's life. And I'm so glad that you asked me.
Of course.
Oh man, it happened for a reason.
Yes, it did.
Amanda, what is something that you would like people to know about the experience of being a foster parent? Maybe some of the biggest joy for you through the process.
The biggest joy for being a foster parent is, I think, just working with the families, and really getting to know their family and getting to know their parents, and building those relationships. Like I said earlier, it's not just about the children. A lot of people think that being a foster parent is just about the children, but those children have families, and we need to be invested in their families, not just them. Like it's, seeing the big picture. And then I think the other thing too is that not everybody should be a foster parent, but that everybody can do something, that can affect a foster child. A lot of times, even if you don't know a foster parent, if you go, if you have kids, go to your kid's school and ask the principal, hey, do you have foster children here? Can I, if there are things that they need for them. A lot of times the schools will know that, because the caseworkers and things will work with the school sometimes, or that's the way it's been with us anyway. But, reach out. I'll make sure to post my profile and all of that information in the comments.
Let me share one quick story with you. I shared it previously. Amanda, you've seen it, but you'll continue to see. Foster parenting is obviously very rewarding because anytime you can touch somebody's life, that's going to be rewarding. But you don't always see it as a foster parent, especially when you're in the thick of things. You're sometimes just kind of like as teachers and our policemen, our firefighters, you're not always acknowledged. Sometimes they'll tell you thank you. A lot of times they won't. But I have a unique story that I shared last time. And I think it's really speaks to what fostering is about. There was this foster parent. She had a young girl in her home, and this young girl was just very difficult to maintain in the home. And I've shared this, so you may have heard this story before, but just very difficult to maintain. And the foster parent did everything they could. I was meeting with them regularly. We implemented anything that we could think of. We were creating things to try to make sure this placement would work. Because, a side note, we truly believe first placement, last placement. We don't want a child jumping around. So we're going to do everything we can before a child needs to go to another option. Anyhow, so we worked, and we could not make this work. And this young girl ended up having to leave, and she went on about her way. And it was she just didn't want to be there. Well, she became 19 or so, and she had a child. And when she had a child, the state stepped in and said, we're going to have to take your child from you for some of the same safety concerns that they had before. What do you want us to do? And she said, call my previous foster parent. So they contacted us, and we called our foster parent. We said, hey, you remember so-and-so? She's like, yeah, I remember her. She said, well, she had a child. And she said, you're kidding? I said, no, and she wants her to come live with you. And the foster parent was like, what? You're kidding. We're talking about the same girl? She said, yes, the same girl. She said, I want to talk with her. So they spoke. So we hooked them up to speak with one another. And the foster parent said, first of all, how you doing? How's everything going? And said, why in the world would you want your child to come to my home when you hated it here? You did everything you could. She said, it wasn't that I hated it there. It was that I didn't know how to connect. And I thought you were going to run out on me like everybody else. So I never allowed myself to be open to you. But I saw that no matter how much I pushed, you still stayed there.
Yeah.
And you continue to care and show the love you have for me. And I know if you can do that to me, with everything I threw at you, you're going to do that for my child.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to the reward of foster care.
And there are so many stories
that.
I mean, we have our own stories with things like that.
Yeah.
And it's,
And, I mean, and that's where the reward comes from, of just saying, you know, you've made an impact. You may not have heard it.
Yeah.
They may not tell you. It may be years. You may not hear from them for years.
Yeah.
And then it comes back and says, hey, I remember you, and I remember everything you did for me.
And she had to be so taken aback by it.
Oh, she was.
I mean, I just can't believe that, you know, I actually did have that impact. And, oh, man, I'm speechless even, like, thinking about it. Like, man, what would that be like? That's just, oh, man.
Yeah.
See, just do what feels right. Do what, like, comes naturally to you. What's in your heart, what's on your heart. Man, that's like a blessing. Like, my mom told me once, there was a guy at my wife's church who gave us $20 they had a carnival going on, like, that weekend. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, give me $20. Like, I don't need $20.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird to accept something like that from someone that you don't know. Like, it's not like it's my homie or something. Like, hey, man, here's $20 for whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just like, man, I was just having a problem with it. And I was like, and my mom said that you need to make sure that you take that, because that was on their heart to do. Like, and if you don't take that, you will be blocking their blessing.
That's exactly right.
And that was on his. That just is what came natural to him, and I'm sure he didn't want anything from that. It was just something that he saw my daughter. Yeah, man.
Right.
He saw my daughters and was like, you know what? It'd be nice to, give them $20 to enjoy the carnival
for whatever reason.
Yeah, for whatever it was, and it's just like, man, like, that's crazy to me. Yeah. So you never know what it would be, and like, to have people that do things like that for other people, those are the type of people I want to be around, because like, that energy, man, that you know, it's good to have that energy around you and be reciprocated through the people that you know, and it's just always good stuff, symbiotic relationships and all that, and everybody can lift everybody up. I've been thinking a lot lately, and I want to be like that ocean level that like has a bunch of ships, and when I rise, everybody rises with me. Like, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Wow. So I just, if Small Guy Promotions ever does blow up, everybody that I know is coming with it. That's right. So we all gonna eat. I always want to have people have a couple of minutes to tell where people can find out more information. So Shawn, I've got the Priority Foster Care page tagged here. Yeah. Where else can people find out more information?
That's really our best. That's what we have seen has been our best revenue. We have a website. We're also on Instagram and Twitter. Okay. But with foster care, that doesn't get kind of the same type of following. Yeah. Facebook is really where we keep all of our advertisement about who we are, what we're doing, what's coming up. And so just follow us on Facebook. Just quick, anytime I get an invite to like something, I like it. Yeah. I think it's just so simple to do, and it makes the people who are trying to push along, makes them feel good that they're being supported. Yeah. And I ask that you do the same thing. Just quickly go to Priority Foster Care, like it, and you never know if that's right. We might be showing something, and it's not always foster care. Yeah. If there are events, small guy, whatever it may be, if there's events come up, we too want to lift one another up and show that. So we're going to promote the same things, and so follow us on Facebook. That's kind of where you'll see what's going on with us and what's new to come.
Cool. There you have it. Amanda, so we didn't say anything about this whole interview, but Amanda is also a part of the Omaha Children's
I was going to mention that, but I didn't know if we should or not.
Yeah. So Amanda is doing a lot of great things in the community.
If you know kids that want to sing, come on out. We've got North Omaha and South Omaha location.
Yes.
Starting in September.
And we're in South Omaha right now.
We are in South Omaha.
Yeah, we're at Priority Foster.
Yep, our address is 1707 J Street, just 7 blocks east of South High School. And to your program, my niece participated in that, and she loved it. She's moved on and continued to do wonderful things. So it's an awesome program. Yeah.
When everyone says small world, I say no, small Omaha. I always correct them. So that's what it is, small Omaha. You know people who know people. It's like the whole 6 degrees of separation with Kevin Bacon just in Omaha. Everybody knows it's not a small town. It's like a mix. It's like a big small town. Like, I don't know. Yeah. But I run into people everywhere that I go. So that's what it's about. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, if you've enjoyed any part of this interview, please make sure to share it with your friends. Invite them to Priority Foster Care, Omaha Children's Choir, Small Guy Promotions. Share this video. We would really appreciate it. We're just trying to get the message out. That's what it is. Shout out to Coach Mo Athletics. I don't know how well you can see that. But shout out to Coach Mo. I always try to represent a different organization in the videos if you haven't noticed. But they're doing great things as well for the community and kids, teaching them how to play basketball and speed and agility and things like that. But yeah, that's what it is. Have a wonderful day. Smile, help someone else smile. Laugh and help someone else laugh. Thank y'all. Peace out. Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
That was amazing.